Hello Year 3, it is Wednesday the 13th of January today and I'm going to be talking through your maths. Okay, so lesson 3 of maths this week. We're going to do a little bit of a recap first of all, thinking about our lessons on Monday and Tuesday, so thinking about obtuse and acute angles, see if you remember what those are, and also horizontal and vertical lines from yesterday. Okay, so we'll do a little bit of a recap, then we'll move on to today's learning. And our learning objective is going to be, I can recognise parallel and perpendicular lines. I'm just going to share my screen with you, okay, so that you can see the slides for today's lesson. So, as you can see, our learning objective, as I've just said, I can identify and recognise parallel and perpendicular lines. I'm going to learn all about what that means later on. Okay, so we're going to start with a recap. Now, as always, a piece of paper and a pencil, or perhaps a whiteboard and pen if you've got one, would be really useful during this input. Okay, so you can just make some notes. Now, first of all, which of these lines are horizontal? Which of these lines are vertical? So I'd like you to pause the video, either talk to someone if there is someone there working with you, or just do it by yourself, point to the lines on the screen. Okay, and I will tell you the answer in a moment. Okay, so hopefully you've remembered that horizontal lines are lines that go this way, okay, across like the horizon, and vertical lines top to bottom. Okay, so there you can see you have got, how many horizontal lines did you spot? Okay, I hope you spotted 2 horizontal lines. How many vertical lines did you spot? You spotted 4 vertical lines, the 4 that are going across the screen. Okay, so you should see 1, 2, 3 and 4 going across. Okay, and then we've got 1 diagonal line as well thrown in there. Okay, your next activity. So have a look at these shapes. Again, I'd like you to pause the video and I'd like you to spot the horizontal and vertical lines in those shapes. Okay, and if you can name those 2D shapes as well, as a little extra challenge, I'd be very impressed. So have a go at that. Okay, so first of all, we're going to look at the rectangle. So that's the 4-sided shape with the 2 shorter edges and the 2 longer edges. Now that shape has got 2 horizontal lines going across the top and 2 vertical lines on either side. It's a bit like my whiteboard. It's the same shape, isn't it? So we've got the horizontal lines at the top and the bottom and the vertical lines on either side. Now, right at the top of those shapes, we've got a semicircle, okay, half a circle. And you should notice, hopefully, there's 1 horizontal line across the bottom and then 1 big curved line over the top, curved edge, I should say. Moving on, the next shape, I'm not sure if you'll know the name of this shape. If you do, I'll be asking you in class, and I know some of you will be putting your hands up, wanting to share, so you can still do that if you're at home. Now, this shape is a trapezium, okay? And the trapezium has got 2 horizontal edges, no vertical edges. And then finally, hopefully you know the 3-sided 2D shape, the triangle, which has got 1 horizontal line at the bottom of it. Okay, and then 2 diagonal. Great, let's move on. So we're now going to think about our learning from Monday, which was our angles. Okay, so I'd now like you to pause the video and again, either tell somebody who's working with you or just by yourself, recognise, if you can, the acute angles in each shape. Now, just to remind you, have a little think, how many degrees are there in a right angle? That's your L-shaped corner of a rectangle or a square. And 90 degrees, aren't there, in a right angle? And an acute angle, have a little think, is that bigger or smaller than a right angle? Do you remember the angle family? We met the baby and he was called the acute angle because he's small and acute. So an acute angle is smaller than a right angle. Okay, so you're looking at anywhere where, here's my right angle. I'm going to do a quick drawing for you. Okay, so that's my right angle. Your acute angle, we're going to come anywhere in between there so you can see both sides like that. This would be an acute angle, measuring that turn, okay, less than 90 degrees. So pause the video, see how many acute angles you can spot in each shape. Are there acute angles in every shape? Have a look. Okay, so the circle. Did you spot any acute angles in the circle? I hope you're saying, no, I didn't, Mrs. Tiernan. Okay, so no acute angles in the circle. In the arrow, okay, you should have spotted 2 acute angles, okay? On either side of the point, 2 acute angles. Now, on the hexagon, okay, are there any acute angles? No, there's not as that. They are all obtuse angles, angles that are bigger than 90 degrees. And then on the bottom shape, the trapezium, again, how many acute angles can you spot there? If you're all saying things at the screen, I like to think you are. There are 2 acute angles and then 2 obtuse angles. Okay, so well done. Hopefully you recognised and remembered those different angles. Now this time we're looking at obtuse angles. So same thing, how many obtuse angles can you recognise in each shape? If you want to as well, you could try and recognise the acute angles and the right angles. Off you go. Okay, so let's have a look. So let's start with the square. Who can tell me what type of angles can you describe in that square? Hopefully you can see 4 right angles. Okay, in the equilateral triangle next to the square, you should be spotting 3 acute angles. Okay. Now the semicircle. The bottom is a little bit of a trickier one because it's got that curved edge, hasn't it? So you might think, oh, is that an angle? But it therefore means that those angles at the bottom are just less than 90 degrees and therefore no obtuse angles in that one. They are 2 acute angles, okay? And then finally, in the octagon, your 8-sided shape, you have got all obtuse angles, no acute and no right, okay? So let's move on to today's learning. Okay, we are looking, as I've already mentioned, if you have a look at your learning objective, at identifying parallel and perpendicular lines. Now those words may be new words to you. You may not have heard them before, or perhaps you have. By the end of today's lesson, I'm hoping that you're going to be feeling confident at exactly what those words mean and what those types of lines look like. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, parallel lines are lines that never meet. You don't see them meeting when you look at them, or if the lines continue to be drawn as they are, straight and in the same direction, they would never meet. Those are called parallel lines. Now you'll notice I put a little picture on the screen of a train track because that always helps me to remember what parallel lines look like. They are like a train track. If you think a train track goes along and the train stays on it, those lines never meet either side of the track. If they met, the train wouldn't be able to continue, it would have to come to a stop. Okay, so train tracks are parallel, the lines on either side, and you can see on the screen 3 more sets of parallel lines. Okay, I'm going to draw for you now on my whiteboard a set of parallel lines. I'm going to use a ruler. And I can actually use either side of my ruler to draw my lines because the lines of a ruler, if they kept going, they would never meet. They are parallel. Okay, so there you go. There are my parallel lines. And you can draw them in any direction. You can draw vertical lines, horizontal lines, or diagonal lines. As long as they never meet, they are parallel lines. Okay, so let's have a look. There we go. Could you pause the video and can you just identify which lines on the screen are parallel? So they never meet, and if you kept drawing them in the same direction and kept them nice and straight, they would never meet. Pause the video and have a little think about that. Okay, so the green lines, are they parallel? Yes, they are. Okay, they are diagonal and they are parallel. They would never meet. Have a look at the red lines. What's happening there? Are they parallel? No, they're not. If they kept going in the same way, they'd actually meet at a point, wouldn't they? Like at the top of a triangle. So they are not parallel. Your blue lines, are they parallel? Yes, they are. Well done if you got that right. And then the orange lines, they're crossing over like this. Are they parallel? Yeah, no, they're not, okay, because the two of them are going to keep going out and getting even further apart on one side and the same on the other side. Okay, great, let's move on. So now is our next word for this morning, our next maths word, perpendicular lines. Okay, so keep parallel lines in your head. They are lines that will never meet. Okay, if you want to, you might want to just pause the video and have a go at drawing some sets of parallel lines. Okay, if we were in the classroom, your teacher would probably be saying to you, can you just show me some parallel lines on your whiteboard? So if you've got a ruler there as well, that would be even better. Have a go, just draw a few sets of parallel lines just to remind you later on in the lesson what parallel lines look like. Okay, right then we'll come back together and we'll now think about perpendicular lines. So as you can see on the screen, it says perpendicular lines are two lines which meet at a right angle. So on the screen you can see two examples there. You've got the green lines. They meet, they come together at exactly a right angle. If I measured the angle at the bottom of those two green lines where they meet, it would be 90 degrees. It's a right angle, an L shape. So if your lines meet at a right angle, they are perpendicular. Okay. Now, the orange lines, they're crossing over. They're also meeting at, well, in fact, 4 right angles around the middle, aren't they? So again, they are perpendicular lines. So before we do the next activity, I would like you to pause the video and again on your piece of paper or your whiteboard, use a ruler if you can and draw some sets of perpendicular lines. I will just do one for you to show you. Okay, so you're going to draw a vertical line and a horizontal line, and the corner where they meet is going to be a right angle. Okay, if you want to have a little play with different ways you can do that, so you could do one so one line is diagonal perhaps. Okay, so just have a go at drawing some sets of perpendicular lines for me. Okay, so now we're going to think about the question on the board, on the screen, sorry, which says Sophie joins dots A to B and C to D. Will her lines be parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So let's break that down together. Okay, so think about if she joins the lines A and B, okay, and then she joins the lines D to C, and she keeps drawing them, would they be parallel or perpendicular to each other? Pause the video and have a little think. Okay, so they would be parallel. They would look almost just like this, wouldn't they? Okay, so they would be diagonal but parallel lines. Okay, next task for you. It says complete the sentences below. So we want to know if a line is parallel to another line, we would say that it is parallel to it. So line 1 is parallel to which other line? Have a look at the screen, pause the video. Which line is parallel to line 1, the blue line? Okay, hopefully you're putting your hands up to tell me the answer, and hopefully it is line 4, the green line. They are parallel to each other. Okay, now the next missing word is line 4, so the green line is something to line 5. Is it parallel to line 5, which is the pink line, or is it perpendicular to line 5? You're shouting at me, and the answer is perpendicular. Okay, so a true or false question for you here. The rectangle has perpendicular lines. Does a rectangle have perpendicular lines? Do the lines meet at right angles? Is that true or false? It is true, okay? At every corner, it's got 4 right angles in the corner, so it's got sets perpendicular lines meeting at every corner. The same would be in a square as well, okay? So, a little challenge here for you. It says identify a set of perpendicular lines in these shapes. So pause the video, have a little look and see if you can find some sets of perpendicular lines. Okay, so hopefully you notice the square, it's just been rotated, but it is still a square. So you've got perpendicular lines, 4 corners there, and you've also got perpendicular lines in your pentagon, the 5-sided 2D shape. Okay, so you've got them meeting at the bottom corners and also at the top, because that's a right angle up there. Great. Okay, we've got one last task to do before I set you off on your worksheet. Okay, I did quite a lot with you today, just so that you really got the hang of parallel and perpendicular lines. So here's a table. I want you to put in the middle column whether it's parallel or perpendicular, okay, the relationship between the lines, and then you need to just fill in some of the lines as well. So we can just do this together, talking it through, or if you'd rather pause the video and write it down, that's absolutely fine too. So the top row says line 1 and line 2. So in the middle box, you want to think about the relationship. So is it parallel? Are they parallel or perpendicular to each other? Okay, have a little think about that. They're perpendicular, aren't they? The pink and the green, they're crossing at a right angle. Line 5 is parallel to which other lines? The line 5 is the purple line. So you can tell me, talk to me, put your hand up. You don't need to put your hand up. You can just say this is a good thing, isn't it? You can all tell me the answers without putting your hands up. Line 5 is parallel to, parallel to line 2, the pink line. And finally, line 3 and line 1, are they parallel or perpendicular? The blue and the green lines, they are parallel. Okay. So I'm thinking you're probably feeling, I'm hoping you're feeling quite confident now about the difference between parallel and perpendicular lines, and you can always keep them drawn next to you to remind you. So here is your do it, okay? And remember, if anything is a bit confusing or you've forgotten something, you can always rewind. You can listen to parts of the video again, look at different slides again, or you can pause and have another time a bit longer to think about things. Okay, so here's your do it. It says some of these lines are parallel and some are perpendicular. Okay, show which is which. So if you could just, it's up to you really how you show which is which. You could either write the words parallel and perpendicular if you wanted to. You can make yourself a little key, okay? Sometimes on parallel lines, we do this thing where we have 2 little lines like this to show that they are parallel. So you could do that on the parallel lines and maybe just circle the perpendicular lines or something like that. Okay. Then moving on, you've got some missing words. So the yellow line is parallel to the what other colour line, and the green line is what to the blue line. Is it parallel or perpendicular? And then true or false, a square has parallel lines. You can decide if that's true or false. So the twist it, okay? So it says which shape is the odd one out? You've got A, B, and C. You've got a pentagon, a triangle, and a rectangle. Consider parallel and perpendicular lines in your answer. Okay, so you'd write A, B, or C as the odd one out and then explain why you've decided that. Okay, and then moving on, you'll solve it. I think you're going to really enjoy this one. It says mark 3 sets of parallel lines and 3 sets of perpendicular lines on the flag. So recognise them, identify them. And then we'd like you to design your own flag containing parallel and perpendicular lines. Okay, now, as always, just like as if you were in class, spend some time doing your sheets. If you don't get onto the solve it, that's okay. Okay, aim to do at least the do it. If you just do the do it, perfect, brilliant. If you've got time and you can go on to the twist it and the solve it as well, amazing. Okay, just pace yourself, do what's right for you. We have also uploaded some slightly easier sheets, okay, for all of the lessons this week. If you're finding anything too tricky, you'll see the link to those on our webpage and a video to go alongside those as well. Okay, so good luck, enjoy the rest of the lesson, enjoy your sheet, and I will see you tomorrow. And as always, if you'd like to send your teachers anything you've done today, any copies of your work, we would love to see them. Okay, have a really good day, enjoy your maths, and I will see you tomorrow.